Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beyond the Ball with me, Collie. This week, I am joined by Connor. Connor, what's correct?
What's the story?
And Paddy. Paddy, how's things?
Yo.
Lads, we're joined by probably our biggest guest of the podcast so far, in my opinion, anyway. He's a former Pats player, former Birmingham City player, and a former Irish international. We are joined by Mr. Keith Fahey. Keith, how's things?
Good. Thanks for that introduction.
Do you like it?
Good to see
He says it every week. Don't mind him.
So, Keith, at the start of every podcast, we do the same thing because we're not talented enough to switch it up. So we're going to stick with it. And we're going to take us into the question section, which is questions sent in by our followers on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So I'm going to take us into the question section. It's impressive, isn't it?
I don't know why I'm nervous.
Don't be nervous. It's fine. Right, so I'll jump on to the first question, which was sent in by MacAttack241017. What's your biggest achievement in football? What would you put that one down to?
Biggest achievement in football, probably getting and playing in the Premier League, playing for Ireland, scoring for Ireland, winning a major trophy in England, and getting there. I probably after not making a success out of it when I was a child, when I was away, like coming back and going back as well. Like, so the whole journey really, like, and getting to the top, like.
Yeah, and it is something that you see a lot of where players go over, but they kind of lose a little bit of heart when they come back, and they kind of settle there. But you kind of went on and went further and then ended up going back over and had a really kind of successful career over there. So it's kind of, it takes a lot of kind of, what would you say is the pedigree for someone to do that? Is it just like desire to do that, or?
I personally, myself, having not done so well as a young fella being away and having messed up and that myself, the drive was to show like that I am good and I am important and all that. So it was a good drive to get there, like a lot of self-determination and stuff like
yeah,
and obviously skill.
The skill
and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, that helps as well. Right, so we'll move on to the next one. Connor, will go to you.
Yeah, so John Gal 5 sent in, how would you describe the feeling of lining out for your country, hearing the national anthem and playing the actual game itself? So maybe you want to go back to maybe your first appearance or your first cap. What was the emotions?
Yeah, what was it like? I remember just being focused and just looking at the flag as you do and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, just kind of, I'd always be thinking anyway, getting ready for the game, look, I hope I do okay, that I stay in around the squad and stuff like that. I remember being in the Irish squads, I just didn't want to be left out of the next one. So all the while I was there, I couldn't say it was an absolute brilliant experience because I put so much pressure on myself to make sure I was in the next squad, like that I couldn't really enjoy it, you know. But like that, I could go through all the cliche stuff, wearing the green jersey and all that sort of stuff that I usually do, and I get uncomfortable when I start saying that. But where I was at when I played for Ireland, it was a difficult time, like, you know. But again, it was the top of my game as well. So yeah, it's like at times now looking back on it, I kind of pinch myself. Even the Carling Cup was last week, and I someone had to remind me that I had won it, like with Birmingham. So yeah, a bit surreal at times looking back, like, you know.
And what was the moment like when you found out that you were getting your first cap, when you were being brought into a squad? Even like, we always hear things about players getting text messages or phone calls, or like Pico finding out on LinkedIn he was called up today.
Right, yeah. I think I remember people were obviously like when a player's doing well and haven't been in before, like the papers kind of push it a little bit, and that was the case with me a little bit. And I was I was only away not so long, probably less than a year, I think, as I recall. And I think I was out doing a bit of shopping that day, and someone rang me to tell me that I was in the squad, and it was great. But instinctively, I just started thinking, I hope I'm in the next squad, like, you know. So, and then while I was in the squad, you're just trying to get on and get your debut. I think I remember coming on in the RDS for Damien Duff, and then I didn't look back really. I stayed in around the squads, and like international football for the short time I was involved, and it was very good to me, like, you know.
Very good.
Right, so I'm gonna move on to the next one, Paddy.
Okay, Jerry _ Desmond _ SRFC. How important is your faith to you now, and was there one big moment in your life that you just decided it was for you?
Yes, I love this question, Jerry. How important is my faith? Well, I'm holding rosary beads here as I'm speaking, like, you know, and was that one big moment? Yeah, like there was a lead up of small moments that led to kind of me not having any place to turn but to God, like, you know what I mean? So my faith is so important to me. It's the most important thing in my life. It's all I have, really, like, you know. So
And is
yeah.
it a new thing for you? Is it only lately you've taken it up?
In the last few years, yeah, I was left with no kind of option, you know, and I just now, when I give up the kind of the fight that I was fighting, I'm looked after when I stay in relationship with God and stuff like that. I go to church, I have private prayers and all that sort of stuff, and meditations through scripture and all that, and I try and spread the word as much as I can, like, you know, so that's really important to me. Jerry, I think, is on Instagram, and he does encourage me through messages and stuff, which is all very, very, very helpful, because I think we're all here to encourage each other in whatever area we need to be grown in. Yeah, so
you found a great community there.
Yeah, absolutely, like, you know,
good support network and stuff, like, for
good support network, good people, and I just, like, I know, like, having played football and lived the way I lived in the past, it was like my spirit was dead, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I know now the byproduct of how I live now, how I try and live now, is a bit of peace and a bit of self-control and all that, and I didn't have that in the past, like, you know. So yeah, I'm very grateful, and yeah, I'm very lucky, I'm very blessed, and you just want to share it with others, like, you know. It's yeah, probably go beyond the realm of this conversation, but yeah, I found a way to live that brings peace and joy and happiness and freedom to make choices that I wasn't able to do in the past, like, you know.
Amen to that.
That's all you're looking for in life, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just sticking on that, Keith, because obviously I follow you on Instagram and stuff like that. I see you visited a lot of them places, kind of over in. I know I'm going to say the wrong place, so there's no point in me even trying to say it. So tell us a bit about, like, you going over there and where you went and stuff like that, because I love the whole history of it. The history of it is brilliant, like. Yeah,
so I went over to the Holy Land a couple of weeks ago, and booked it over Christmas, and went to see where Jesus was born, where he was crucified, where he taught a lot of his teachings, performed miracles, all that, healed the sick, healed the blind, in these places, like, and went over on a pilgrimage with a group, and it was mass every day. Got to see and got access to the most holiest places on earth. Like, we weren't rushed in and rushed out because tourism properly hasn't started there yet. And we're just very lucky, like, you know, very lucky. It was great crack as well. It wasn't all our Father who art in heaven, like, it was. There was great crack to be had, like, you know. And it was just a great trip, yeah. One a major downer since coming home, to be honest. Question where I'm going, what I'm doing in life and stuff. So, yeah, I just felt it on my heart to go. Like, I was there, in, I'm not sure what year, maybe under 15s, under 16s with Brian Kerr. Actually, we played a tournament over there, and we got to around the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, like where Jesus would have been crucified and stuff. And we were in there, but only briefly. So it was great to go back, and like that, I get stuck into the Bible, and yeah. And it's just great to go somewhere where these things actually happened. Like, whether you believe or not is another thing. Historically, this man walked the earth and did these things, like, you know. So
the whole thing about the belief side of it, whatever you choose yourself. But I just think even the history of the place and the stories of the places that you visited, I just think are brilliant. Like, because I was in the Vatican before. And I went there, and just being in the Sistine Chapel and stuff like that, and just knowing the history of the places, I just found it was unbelievable.
Absolutely, yeah. You know,
right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Right, sure. Look, we'll move on because we do have a good few questions on, but we might touch back onto that there in a while. So I'll move on to the next question, which was sent in by P.E. Graham 4. So, would you have any interest in getting back into coaching or managing in football?
No, I tell you why. P.E. Graham 4 and anyone else who's interested in hearing like that, people will go straight into going, it's an awful waste, but it's an awful waste. Of my time and all that, like I've put so much time into football through my life. I kind of, when civilians are going to work and coming home, like if I'm going to coach kids or whatever, like we start at night, I'm just still not involved in society. I'm still not involved in the real world, like, you know what I mean? So, I wouldn't say I'm not going to go back into football at all. Maybe I will in a different area. I'm not sure, but it's just very time consuming. Like it is, especially in this country. Like it's you're expected to do an awful lot of it for nothing as well. Like and it's just it's not something I see myself doing going forward. I was coaching for a little while, and I'd have a very different outlook on how to do things. Which doesn't suit the manual per se, like and you're not given a chance then because people see you as a threat and all that sort of stuff. They don't want you there. So look, through the lockdowns, I kind of seen that it's not for me, and I just decided to let go of it. And thank God I did. Like that, I'm seen by people nearly as Keith the footballer, and I'm not like, do you know what I mean? I'm Keith the person, like So I've let go of it, thank God. And it's like to start something new and recreate myself as well, like with a bit of meaning, a bit of purpose, because that's where I get like the stuff that I couldn't get in the past. I get all the pats on the back off people and all. It was all very short term, and it didn't last. It didn't really give me what I need. Like so, I'm looking to do something that has good meaning, good purpose, and I sleep well at night, and I'm fulfilling my role. Like I believe I'm here for something to do. Like
Yeah, and you'll definitely find it. Right. Well, look, that was a good answer. We'll move on to the next one. So, Connor, on to yourself.
Jeez, Jerry's at it again. He loves it.
Jerry sent it a few. All right. Yeah.
I wonder who Jerry supports as well with the name.
Yeah.
But anyway, a big question Jerry's brought up here, and I think we've asked a few people about this so far. As many footballers do suffer with their mental health. Would you have any advice for young footballers? And I would even add to Jerry's thing and say, especially the path of we've had obviously Gav Houlihan and stuff on who has gone across, suffered a knock, come back like yourself. Like, what advice do you have for people who maybe aren't in the same headspace you were at that stage?
Yeah, look, I had my own struggles as well. I think everyone struggles with mental health. Like, I don't think it's just one area and stuff like that. It's just, I think we all struggle a little bit with something. I know in the past, I was so harsh on myself. Like, I believe the lies that my head would tell me at times, like that I'm not good enough, I'm not wanted, I'm a failure, all that type of stuff. I don't believe it now, even like, we stay close to the word of God, like, and that tells me that I'm loved unconditionally, regardless of what anyone says to me, like, or what even I do, like, I'm forgiven, like, over and over and over. So, like, any advice, like, if I was a young Keith Fahey again, which I get asked regularly, and what would I say to that child? I'd say, look, do you need some help? Do you want help? I'd encourage people to gravitate to someone that they trust and ask questions, like, and don't be afraid to be different, like, don't be afraid to be different. Everyone's caught up with fitting in and all that sort of stuff. And growing up in society now, it's like if you don't fit in, you're not cool or whatever it is, and like that, there's another way to live, like that people are forgetting, like, I'd encourage people to talk as well, and in the right environment. Like, I wouldn't just start talking to anybody, like, some people don't want to hear it. Encourage people to talk and trust, and seek a bit of help as well, like a bit of therapy, and encourage people to exercise, all that, try and eat well and sleep well. It's but I get it, like, it's not always easy, because when you do suffer with mental health or whatever, in my experience, it can really, really isolate you, like, it can really isolate you. So
so finding someone close, I suppose, that you trust is a massive thing, isn't it? Just they can be your anchor nearly, like.
It is. It's important. It's important. But again, if you're growing up and you don't have any good support network around you as well, it's very hard to find your feet. Like you get lost. You get lost growing up, and I was lost growing up myself. I'd no security. I'd no self-esteem and all that sort of stuff. And it's not a good way to be in the world because you're frightened, you're afraid, you don't trust people and all that sort of stuff. And it's just not good.
Well, we had a couple of guests on now, and I just want to touch on. I suppose you've lived a unique youth in terms of being a professional footballer. So you're taken away from your home, and you're sent to clubs. And we've heard from a good few players now saying that there's no real support structure there, other when you're training and playing matches. Do you feel that there was enough there that you're talking to people that maybe you trust about mental health issues and stuff like that? Are those channels there within football clubs and within football in general for the help you need?
I would say they are, like, honest, like that's just my opinion. I would say they are there if you seek them. Like when I was growing up, I was messing about and I didn't want to share it with people. Like I didn't want to, I was coming home from England drinking my head off and going back thinking it was okay, like, and hiding it and all that. So I wasn't ready to be honest about what was going on. So I'm sure in this day and age that there is avenues within football clubs. There's always someone that you can turn to. Like I hope anyway that is not going to judge you and help you find your way. Like, you know, I think a lot of times as well, a bit of pride gets in the way of someone saying, "Look, I need a bit of help really." You know, because we all become very good at masking things and hiding things and saying the right things to fit in and all that, and then you're going home thinking, "Oh." But I don't actually think that. Well, that's for everyone. That's for grown men, grown women, and all that sort of stuff. So look, I would just encourage kids or young footballers or anyone growing up to try and get a good community of support around you and and open up in a trusting environment and stuff. Yeah, and that's I'm not an expert either. Like I just know the battle I went through was within myself. Like, you know. And I found once I started to trust someone and open up, and I started to heal. Like, you know, I started to heal.
Talking is massive, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Talking and receiving as well. That whatever's being said, receiving it on the other end is massive as well. Because if it's not the right person or the right environment, it won't be taken well, and it can leave you feeling very, very raw. Like, you know. So, yeah.
Cool. Right. Well, we'll move on.
I want to say as well. Like we talk about mental health as well, there's emotional health as well is a sneaky one that people don't see. Like it's your emotional health can be damaged. Your spiritual health, I believe, is the most important thing. That's in my experience. When I sort my spiritual health out, the mental and the emotional, the physical doesn't seem so badly. You know, like, it really doesn't.
When you say like spiritual, like for people that like don't understand what you're saying there, is that more like a being okay in yourself and how you feel about yourself? Is that what you mean by that, or like how would you describe what you mean there?
Well, what I mean is not going to be popular. It's not going to be popular. Like it's Jesus Christ, Son of God, Holy Spirit. Like that's like what I stay close to, because I'm well when I stay close to the truth. Like I'm not infiltrated by the lies and all that sort of stuff. So, that's what I mean when I say my spiritual health. Like and like yeah.
But look, let's I suppose you say there a lot of people aren't going to like this, but even people that don't have faith, like people have dirtied, I suppose, the Catholic Church and stuff. The actual book itself and the meaning behind it is all good. It's all positive. You know, it's treat each other right. You know, love each other, the whole shebang. So there's nothing, I suppose, to think what like people. I suppose it's the people within it, the greedy people, that have made it bad. So I think it's actually a nice thing to have faith, even if you don't believe in it. Other people don't believe in it. You know.
Yeah, look, it's the only thing I have really at the end of the day. You know, it really is.
And it's a lot. Some people don't have that.
Yeah.
Right. Well, look, we will move on because, like I said, we've a good few questions here. So, Paddy, is it you?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So
on a lighter note, okay. So Scott 447. Who's the best player and team that you've? Who's the best player and team that you've played with and against?
Sorry, that's my typo.
the best player, the best team that I played with and against.
Yes.
Yeah,
The best
sorry.
player I say I played with was probably Stephen Carr. And I say that because he looked after me when I was in Birmingham. He was our captain and he was brilliant. With a great
Solid
couple of
defender, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was brilliant. He was. The best team we played with, was probably that team as well. Birmingham team where we finished 9th in the Premier League, which was an all-time
That's the highest they've ever finished, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and
Unbelievable.
we won a cup and we got relegated as well. And I think that was the best team.
Who was the manager at the time?
The manager at that time was Alec McLeish.
Right.
He signed me from Pats, and so he done great with us as well. Yeah. What was the other question? Sorry, the best team we played against, or best player?
Player and team you've played against.
Best player I played against. So like flash in the pan. Like I played against Gareth Bale. I played against Lionel Messi. Like I played against Steven Gerrard. Like, but
and you could have
that's a few times. Like I wouldn't say I had like week in, week out. Like if I go back to my Pats days, like when we were playing in the league, Kevin Hunt was brilliant, a brilliant player. Joe Gamble, George O'Callaghan, and there were some good players around. Even Glenn Cronin as well was a tough player to play against. There were some good midfielders play against in the Irish League, and you would have been having battles against them week in, week out, rather than like I know I played and some of the best players in the world, like, but I wouldn't go around bragging that I used to play against them, have battles against them each week, like, you know.
Cool. Right, so look, we'll move on to the next one. Like I said, I want to try to get through these as quick as we can now. So, next one, I think it's me, so I'll just jump in with this one. Jerry again. If you could change one thing about your career now, looking back, what would it be? We touched on it a little bit already.
If I could change one thing about my career, I don't think I'd change anything. Like if I was going to go in and start changing what's already happened, I think I know best, and I don't, like, you know, things have worked out, thank God for me, personally, and the way it worked out going through it. Like if I look back, messed up when I was away as a teenager. Came back very disheartened. I actually left Arsenal thinking I'd go somewhere else, went somewhere else and didn't want to go back there. Came back, played in Pats for a bit, got to go away. I got sacked from Drogheda as well, like, and all the while, like, there was doors closing, and there was doors opening, people coming in, people moving out of my life and around football circles, and I was always kind of shepherded along to find me way, like, so like something I believe like was looking after me, like people come into my life, left me life like that, getting sacked. You think, oh no, like what have I done? But I went back to Pats, and then I began me kind of build up to going away the second time. So I wouldn't change anything. I got to play for Ireland. I got to play in the Premier League. And like that, with what was going on internally for myself personally, like for that to happen, it's pinch yourself stuff to think like that actually happened. You know, it's and like that, I had a fairly modest career in terms of, like, I didn't spend 10 years in the Premier League. I didn't spend like 10 years in the national team. But for me, for where I'm from, my whole circumstances growing up and all that sort of stuff, for me to do what I done was pretty miraculous, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
honestly, it really was, like, and used to play for Time and Bond down the road there.
That's who I played for now.
Yeah. I played for them. Like Peter White managed me as a child with my dad and stuff, and it was just I've been blessed, like. I really have.
I think even if you look at most of the footballers we've had on, a lot of them would take your left arm for the career you've had. So I think hats off to you on that one. Like.
Yeah, no, I've been very lucky, and I'm extremely grateful. Like, and I'm very grateful as well to the teammates that I played with. You know, that I couldn't really see while I was playing because I was so stuck in myself. Like, you know.
Yeah, actually, that's a nice little segue into our next question here. So, Conor, I'll allow you to do this one.
Yeah, Kevin Roach 11. Who are the best mates in football, and do you keep in contact with any ex-teammates?
Now that's an easy question. I didn't make an awful lot of friends in football. I have a couple of friends. Adam Rooney's a good friend of mine.
Adam's coming on to the podcast, I think, at the end of the season.
Is he?
I think so. Yeah, we haven't lined up to come on. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's a great friend. I've friends that I've stayed in touch with, I suppose. Desi Bourne, Matt Quigley, a few of them, Gary Dempsey. Yeah, but I never really got really close to people within football circles. It was kind of I was out there in the big bad world on my own, like fending for myself, kind of.
Kept it professional.
What?
Kept it very professional.
Well, you could say that.
Yeah. So look, we'll move on to Paddy. I'll let you go on to the next one.
97. What happened when you went to Aston Villa, and why do you think it didn't work out?
What happened? My demons, probably, I'd say. When I left Arsenal as a 16, 17-year-old. I had another 3 years there. I left because I was running away for some reason, and I left and went to Villa. And after a while, I come home one summer and just didn't want to go back. And then they were phoning going, we're back training. I was like, yeah, I'm not coming back. And they were the things I was doing as a young fella, as a teenager. It wasn't the right thing to be doing. And then when I did decide to go back, I was released then a few months later, which my contract was up, So that's really what happened there. And that's why it didn't work out. I was playing reserve team football at Villa for a little bit, and I remember John Gregory saying, "Oh, look, we want you in the first team when you come back next pre-season." And I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't ready. That even mention of me playing and getting ready for the Premier League frightened me, so it just didn't work out then. I wasn't ready. I wasn't. It's just like the story, many come home. I wasn't good enough. I didn't make it, or whatever it was. It just didn't work out. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, happens. Right, Paddy, is it Paddy onto yourself now for this one? Oh, it's me, is it? Sorry. P-Share 85. What is the funniest story from your career?
Oh God, funniest story of my career. There's a lot of explicit stories you couldn't.
This is over 18, so you're grand.
Yeah.
After the watershed now.
Funny stories. No, I stay away from them because they'll be saved for
exactly. Yeah. They'll be clipped on TikTok or something.
Yeah.
We'll move on, right? So I'm just going to move on to the last question that we ask everyone. So this is our last question from this. If your house is on fire, now bear in mind there's not much damage. If you run in and grab two things from your career, what would you be taking?
From my career.
So stuff you've got in your house, maybe an old jersey or a pair of football boots, that might be specialty, or
I say there's a medal or two there as well.
A couple of medals, maybe.
I think it'd be to be honest, I think it'd be the money I've made from my career, to be honest. I say that, I didn't win loads of leagues. I wasn't put here to win leagues, and I don't see the big value in it, so that's what I was very that's how I was driven within the football at some stage or another. I thought, what, I'm stuck doing this, I can't do anything else, I might as well go and earn a few quid at it, so that was kind of the drive. And then I look at it from when I went from Pats to Birmingham, my drive to get to England was 100 mile an hour, and then when I got there, my drive to get another contract and stay within the kind of the first team squad and all, that was where I was at. I think subconsciously somewhere I thought if I earn a few quid or whatever, I will feel better in myself, So, and that I'm very grateful. At the end of the day, if it was a jersey, I was more thinking of security, financial security, and all that. A jersey, medal.
I hope you don't keep all your money in your house.
No. But I wouldn't like a jersey's not going to pay me mortgage, etc., etc.
Yeah.
You know, I'd be thinking quite practically in that sense. So
very good.
Yeah. Other than that, a couple of jerseys. I don't have many jerseys left. I've given a lot to charity and stuff over the years, and now the jerseys that I'm kind of giving out are just kind of ones I have there. They're not my mainstays, but there's not many left, you know. So I've been very kind.
Any jersey you have, Keith, that you said I'll give some of them to charity, but this one stay with me for forever?
Yeah, maybe me first Ireland jersey, Connor. Maybe my first Ireland jersey, you know. I have a framed, so yeah, I'll probably hold on to that one.
Well, look, we'll move on to a couple. Before we go into just talking about your career, there's a couple of comments in on the.
I just have to remember, I gave that away. I gave me first Ireland jersey.
Who got that?
I gave it to me primary school. St. Melrose up the road.
St. Melrose, I was in St. Melrose. That's brilliant. That is brilliant. Very, very good.
Yeah.
Built them up or nothing there. So look, I bring up a couple of quick comments on the so we can answer this really quickly and then we'll jump on to kind of talking a little bit about your career. So AC Claresy, who was your favourite League of Ireland team to play against?
Yeah, probably Bows or Drogheda, I think. I used to score a couple of goals against Bows quite a bit, and Drogheda as well. Scored a few against them as well. But scored a goal the season against Bows back in 2008. So
love it. Right, next one in from Laura Bourne. This is actually Josh. Josh is with the Shamrock Rovers Academy as well. So did you win much trophies with Birmingham? So obviously we know you won the Carling Cup.
We won the Carling Cup, in 2011 against Arsenal, and I won a goal of the season there as well. I got a little Smarties trophy from my goal of the season as well. So yeah.
Right, so next one then we have is from Liam MacD. If you could go on a night out with 3 past or present players, who would it be?
Oh, you're gonna have to drag me back into the darkness here to answer that.
Exactly,
yeah. That could just be a meal as well. It could just be
a meal. Yeah,
have a conversation with them.
A meal. That's a tough one. 3 past or present. I'll have to mention Desi Bourne. Desi be in there. Paulo Sam.
We had Paulo Sam on the podcast there near the start. Very good he was. Yeah,
and Johnny McDonald. He's not a footballer. He wasn't the footballer I played with, but he was a manager.
Cool. Right. And then the last one we have.
Forgive me, anyone who's listening who hasn't been mentioned. Forgive me, please.
Johnny Mac's not listening anyway, Keith. Don't worry. Johnny's not listening.
Best pre-game speech by a captain.
Pre-game speech. Maybe half-time speech. I remember half-time speech by Stephen Carr, I think, in one of the games. Was very good. I can't remember what game or what exactly he said, but I remember the moment. So, yeah.
Right, cool. So, look, we're going to... Sorry, that one's after popping back up. So, look, we're going to just jump back on to, obviously, talking a little bit about your career. So, we're going to just kind of go in timeline as we can. So, obviously, look, starting off really early, I always like to start off and talk about, like, how you got into playing football. So, were you one of them kids that kind of went out, you were always leaving the house football in hand, you wouldn't leave the house without it, or was it something that you grew into? Like, most players don't have their young, underage career documented, but it says here 1988, which would have put you 5 years of age, and you played for Time and Bond from 5. So, obviously, that was your type of player. So, what were you like as a kid with football?
Yeah, football, tennis ball, any sort of round object. Like, I would be comfortable knocking it off a wall all day long. Like, everywhere I went, I brought a football with me. Like, I just constantly had a football. Yeah, in the house, I'd have a tennis ball. This used to be the garage, utility room. When it was raining, I'd be in the utility room knocking a tennis ball off the wall and stuff like that. Before school, I'd be up there 20 past 8 with a tennis ball, first there every morning to play football. And yeah, it was everything. Like my football, like I said, I was so comfortable with the ball at my feet, and it didn't like it was because I spent a lot of time with it. Like I spent a lot of time with a football or tennis ball, and it just became natural to me. Then, like the more I spent time with it, I suppose. So yeah.
And just like going from, obviously we're talking about you've played with Time and Bond there, which is obviously one of our local teams. But then you make the move to Cherry Orchard, and that's when you kind of start getting like the thoughts of scouts and stuff like that. So what was it like for you moving from Time and Bond over to Cherry Orchard, and kind of what was your journey like even getting over there? Because we know the Lawns is obviously over in Ballyfermot, and obviously being in Tallaght, it's a little bit tricky, but how did you manage that one?
Yeah, I remember the journey. Like Dave McCarthy scouted me from Cherry Orchard to sign me from Time and Bond to Cherry Orchard, and I could have signed a couple of years earlier, but my dad didn't drive around like that, so we waited a couple of years, and I signed then, and I'd get the bus down sometimes as a 13-year-old, and the 76. I was terrified getting that bus down, but yeah, he signed me, and then John Burke then took over then when the age kind of rule changed, and then I started playing centre mid and stuff like that. So yeah, it was a kind of a big change. I was kind of comfortable with Time and Bond. My dad was there, it was just down the road, be forced down, knocking the ball in the nets and stuff like that. And then to go down there where there was like lads from all over Dublin and stuff, the standard was a lot higher. And I didn't have any confidence either. Like I was so good, and I didn't realize it. Like so again, I couldn't enjoy it really. And yeah, that's when I had to see other players going away on trial at 13, 14, and I started to go like, why haven't I going somewhere? And that was kind of the motivation, which didn't really change as I got older. That happened again with Pats. I seen other lads going away, and I was like, hold on a minute, so it just becomes so it's high pressure, like even as a child, like the pressure I put on myself was phenomenal, like honest to God, like.
And that's what you seem to do, isn't it? It's you seem like just even by talking to you always seem to be looking for the next thing. You're always like what's your next goal, and you always seem to have one goal kind of ahead of yourself, and you never kind of catch the goal. Like is it would you say it's good for someone to do that, or would you say be content where you are, but also kind of don't let the goal burden you as such?
Yeah, it's a difficult one to answer, because like whatever way I process things and work them out, like it worked. But although like living in the moment and all that and enjoying it, like that kind of wasn't part of my process. Like it was striving to get to where I needed to be, and so yeah, I would have I can't say I regret the way I was, but like I haven't enjoyed it a little bit more going through it, and it's like just a lesson for now. Like where I'm at, I'm seeking to do something new in my life, and I'm trying to just remind myself, Keith, just enjoy the journey. Like what I mean, relax, take the pressure off yourself. It's going to work out. Like so, look, it worked out, and whatever way I process things, like there was something different about me to the average kind of players. Like what I mean, I did have a drive, and I've seen it in one or two lads. That have coached as well, and I've seen something different in them, that they've a real drive to get to where they need to be. Like that's what separates the ones that will go on and the ones that won't. Really, that's what I believe. So anyway,
yeah, deadly. Paddy, look, I'll pass to you there. I'll let you get a few questions into Keith there.
Yeah, so thanks very much. So when you started off in your career, you first went to England at what age?
I went to England at 15,
15. That's a really difficult time, I suppose, to leave home. How did you find adjusting to life away from, your family?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I didn't my security was taken away from me from a younger age than that. Like my mother and father broke up when I was 7 years of age, and that kind of broke my heart, left me feeling very insecure, all that sort of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I was going away already like that, and I ended up kind of finding ways to survive. I would have isolated a lot in my room and stuff in digs. I would have went drinking in the pubs and all at 15, and so I found it difficult. I just found it difficult to be in like a family home, people socializing downstairs and stuff, and I wouldn't have been that way inclined, to be honest. Like I was like used to kind of fending for myself and be very skeptical of people and what's going on, and like that I didn't trust people. So that's the way I was growing up. Yeah, so I found it very difficult. You're in London, away from like me father. Like my dad was my rock, like really, like, and I was away from him, and my brother as well was back home. So yeah, it was very difficult like that. I'm sure it's difficult for anyone, like, but just I can't experience anyone else's kind of experience. Like mine was just the way it was, and I just found it like it toughened me up. Like, you know what I mean?
And when they take you on, do they put you in with a family, or is it a shared house with other players, or how does it work?
Yeah. So I remember going to Arsenal, and I got put in this lovely house, real. It was all antique kind of stuff, and I remember just going in the next day. I says, I'm not staying there. Like, so you put me in a different house, and then the same thing happened. And then I was like, looking back now, I was always just wanting to be somewhere else. You know what I mean? I thought I'd be happy somewhere else, and it just never worked out. And then we found somewhere that there was two or three of us in the one house, and it was not a good way. You know, like we were up to the pub every so often, and it wasn't good. Like, you know, so
yeah.
This
is what I was touching on earlier, where I suppose the support network for young players getting into football when they have to move abroad. You know, I suppose there could have been better guardrails put in place for the likes of yourself.
Could there have been what? Sorry, Paddy.
Could there have been better guardrails put in place for the likes of yourself as a young kid going over to England, fending for yourself? Because I know, I was in the same sort of position as you at 15 years of age, and when you're allowed to go to pub, that's all you do. You just go to pub. Okay.
Yeah, and we weren't allowed. But we weren't allowed, like,
well,
but
if you can.
like, you know, I didn't follow codes of discipline or anything or ethics. So it was just, you know, like, I'll do what I want to do, like, kind of attitude, and it wasn't good. Like, it really wasn't good, and I wouldn't suggest it to any kids going to England or anything, like, you know. So but look, we're all very different, I suppose, in different ways, and like, I believe as well, like, my family kind of home, growing up kind of, that's where I learned a lot of things, not so good things, some good things and stuff, and
Delhi, and was Arsenal, was it a good setup there when you got there? Were you like, I've been coming from Ireland, you go over there and blown away?
Arsenal was brilliant, yeah. When I went there, like, I used to love Ian Wright. Like, Ian Wright was my hero. I think maybe just because he enjoyed football so much, like, you know, he loved scoring goals. And when I went there, he was still there. Like, there was Dennis Bergkamp. They were winning doubles. They were playing in Highbury, and they were building a brand new training ground when I was there, like the first proper state-of-the-art training ground in England, I think. And in the midst of that, I was coming home here, crashing mopeds with no helmet on, drunk, and going back like the Elephant Man, like thinking that was normal, and lying about it and all that sort of stuff. And so that's it. I was just like, I was in a battle against myself, like always, you know. So it was a great club, and then I moved from there to Villa, like. And that was, again, their youth policy and all was brilliant. We had some great players there, and the club was run really well. Like, so.
And I suppose just finishing off for this line of questioning, you went back to Ireland, you went back to England. Did you grow up in that period? And is that why it worked out again when you went back to Birmingham then?
I was older. I wouldn't say I grew up. I've only started growing up in the last few years. That's been honest with you. Like, in that space of being between 20, 25, I was older. I would say I was a little bit more mature, as you have to become as you get older. But I wasn't living a good way of life, to be honest. I wasn't. I wasn't living my best life. You know. I was very lucky and very blessed to get another opportunity to go away. So
you made
Conor,
it work out. Okay.
Conor, I'll jump onto you there. Just onto it.
Yeah, I suppose we'll go back onto the Birmingham days, and so you go back across, you get back involved with probably straight into a senior setup almost that you hadn't experienced in England, never mind the Premiership before. What are those first couple of days like as you coming from, and I used to go to the League of Ireland games, you're quite a big fish in a small pond, we'll say, in the League of Ireland, to then jumping into a Premier League club. What does that look and feel like to you when you go back across?
Yeah, Connor, I remember the first couple of days in training. I actually trained really, really well. I hit the ground running. The pitch we were training on was unreal. The players I was training with were brilliant, all great standard players, and you're just going, well, like, and we were championship then, like, and the last few months in that season, we got promoted. I scored the last day of the season, scored the second last day of the season. I got an assist on the last day of the season and scored another couple of goals. So I played a good part. It was just, yeah, I played left side of midfield, which was new, apart from the time I was with Paul Doolan. Like, so I was being prepared there for my future, you know, and that when I was playing for Paul Doolan, I was given out, like, internally that I'm playing left wing, I'm like a second left back and all, but sure, look, a few years later I'm playing the Premier League with, like, under Alec McLeish, and that's the exact role I kind of played, like I was a second left back. But yeah, it was just, I finished the season strongly with Pats, the 2008 season, and then just went over and I was kind of ready, like, you know, I hit the ground running, you know, so I was lucky, things were just right, I suppose, like.
And then we move into, I suppose, you reach that pinnacle where you got obviously your Ireland call up, you're in the squad with Ireland, you're kitting out for Ireland. I know I've heard rumours about it before, but I've never got to ask somebody around obviously what it was like working for Trapattoni, what was it like working under him, and how did his management style differ, I suppose, to what you were used to with McLeish at Birmingham?
Yeah, I think, like, football is a simple game, like, you know, honest to God, like, I think it's overcomplicated. Again, Trapattoni picked me. I think I remember, like, just how much of flavour of the month he was, and then obviously when things turned, everyone turned on him, like, nearly. But yeah, we came in, we trained, we prepared for games, we watched videos, and people knew their roles, they knew what they were doing, and that was kind of it. Yeah, I was no different. Like, you know, I understood anything that was asked, I done it. Again, I trained really well. Anywhere I went, I trained probably better than I played in the games. Trained really well, left an impression, obviously, on the staff and on the players and stuff like that. The same at Birmingham. I'd say some of the eyebrows would have been raised, like, where did he come from? Like, you know, so I think it's always important to make an impression in training, and I did. And again, yeah, I was picked again for Ireland, and like that, I feel the want and the need to kind of stand my ground when asked about Trapattoni, because at one stage he was a hero, national hero, and then he wasn't. And then there's like players are very selfish as well, by the way, me included. Like, as a player, we'll always look to blame someone else, like, you know, instead of actually looking and going, you know what, he didn't do enough there. I knew what he was doing, but it's easy then to kind of go, nobody knew what he was saying. That's all nonsense. Like, it really is, like, you know. Yeah.
I just want to touch on staying on the Ireland setup. So the 2012 Euros. So obviously you have a great run up to it. You're in the squad for it, and then all of a sudden you get hit by injury and end up not going. Is that kind of one thing that would stand out in your career that you would have loved to kind of go and participate in that?
Yeah, I like that. Looking back on it, I probably dodged a bullet, as we didn't really do well over there.
No.
And just myself personally, again, I was struggling with injuries that year, and I played a lot of games, and I tried to get myself back to a certain level, and I just tore me groin straight away. Nearly, excuse me, when I met up with the what was it? It was in training the first day, I think, back. So yeah, look, it wasn't to be. It was part of, unfortunately or fortunately, it was part of my story, and I was devastated. But it's
one of them things, isn't it?
Just one of them things, you know. You can't have it all, like, and I suppose like the career that I did have as well with Ireland, like I left a decent impression. Like I scored 3 goals. I had 16 caps and stuff.
16
So
caps, brilliant.
it's not bad, like, you know.
It's
so
brilliant.
yeah.
You talk about like players getting caps, and you always hear so many really, really good players, and they never get the cap. To break in and actually get the cap is like such a proud moment. I know you were saying that you obviously, your thing was you got in the squad, you were looking to the next to stay in the squad, like, so like you have to kind of stop and look at what you've done and say to yourself, you know what, that was a really proud moment. I know you couldn't enjoy it at the time, but now, like, in hindsight, looking back, do you feel that proudness of yourself? Like, do you kind of pat yourself in the back sometimes, or are you still kind of very, no, I'm looking to something else? Like,
Yeah, no, Colin, it's a good question, because I'd be mindful when I'm trying to give myself credit, like, you know, like,
Yeah.
I'm holding these rosary beads, and I wouldn't be here without God, like, you know what I mean? I wouldn't have the abilities in football without the gifts being given from somewhere else, like, you know. So I always give credit to something else, and it's just easier that way, you know. I know what I'm also capable of as well, like, you know.
Yeah.
I know what we're capable of as human beings as well. So I'll just be mindful that, look, I'm extremely grateful. I was lucky. I did work hard, you know, and I try and now just work in relation with our Creator rather than
cool.
myself.
So look, Keith, I think we'll wrap up now in the next couple of minutes, but I do want to just jump on to Paddy real quick, because I think Paddy might have 1 or 2 more questions, and then
sorry, Keith. Yeah, graphics there. You see in the Premier League nowadays, and all the players are walking around with their hands over their mouth so the cameras can't catch what they're saying. We had Pico Lopez on last week, and he had a great story about when he was playing against Zlatan. Asked him to show him his balls, and you've played against some of the best players in the world. Have you got any good stories about, you know, one of these players that we see on the telly every week? You know, a good funny story. And not much to see your balls now, but
I don't have any stories for you, lads. Apologies there, but I don't have.
Right.
There was never one for stories or anything like that. You know what I mean? So
if you don't ask, you don't get. I thought I'd just ask.
Right, Keith, I think we're gonna wrap it up there, because we're coming up towards the hour mark there. So, look, I suppose on behalf of myself, the lads, I want to say a massive thanks for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's great to see you doing so well as well. Obviously we have you on the Instagram and stuff like that, so hopefully we'll keep in touch anyway. But delighted to have you on. Just for anybody that is watching, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, make sure you hit subscribe, follow. Also, this week is a kind of a special week, I suppose, because we have another podcast on Sunday. We have Shane McFall, who's over in America at the moment, so he'll be on Sunday. So look, I want to say again a massive thanks from all of us for coming on, and we will see everybody next week at 8:30 on Tuesday night. So see you then.